Hi, I'm Uzo and welcome to Module 3 of your BTEC Level 1 Health and Safety in a Construction Environment course. And today's module is going to be about working at height. By the end of this module, you should be able to define what working at height is, okay? Detail your responsibility when it comes to working at height. Look at access equipment, so what the equipment that you need to be able to work safely at height. Talk about the hazards and risks and how to control them, and basically look at the regulations when it comes to working at height. You should be able to understand them as well. And here's a lovely chap on our screen, sort of going up his ladder. Now, think about it. What does working at height mean? And before I sort of get into it, I just thought I'd put some facts to it. According to the HSE, which is the Health and Safety Executive, working at height remains one of the biggest causes of fatalities and major injuries. Now, think about it. You're working up on a roof, or you have an individual working up on a roof. He hasn't followed the proper health and safety precautions, falls down from the roof, and basically has, either results in a fatality or a very bad injury. Okay, so it is, something that you should pay serious attention to. And here we can see that, working at heights basically means working in a place where you could fall at a distance and probably suffer personal injury. Now, I just thought I'd, say something here. If you are above the ground, whether that is, on a step ladder or on a very little platform, that is basically working at height. Anything that means that you are working just a bit above ground level means that you're working at height. And some of the common cases include maybe falls from ladders, falls through fragile surfaces. Working at height means work in any place where if you don't take the proper precautions, you could fall a distance that could cause you personal injury. So here are some examples of working at height. You will be working on a roof, that's one of them, up on a ladder, a mobile platform or a cherry picker, scaffolding, a step up, a power or telephone pole, that's quite some height. So basically, a lot of these things do class as working at height, and you must observe health and safety regulations when doing so. Now, talking about your responsibility when it comes to working at height. Before we go into that, I just thought I'd sort of give a little case study, and this was actually found on the Health and Safety Executive's website. So there is a, a large independent installer or digital terrestrial and satellite equipment of digital terrestrial and satellite equipment recognized that it could be doing more to tackle falls. So I think there was a complaint about, a lot of the engineers that were installing aerials and dishes kind of, having bad accidents or falling from height. And that could be, falling from anything such as portable leaning ladders to roof or roofing ladders. Okay. Now they had a solution, and the solution was that they took measures, including making sure the ladders were secured using an eye bolt and a ratchet strap, and making sure that the workers were appropriately trained, and also giving them the specialist kit. And that included a flexible safety line that could be attached to the secured ladder. So now the workers are trained. They now can wear a full arrest harness that can be attached to the line and the ladder. And what that means is, if there was a fall or they slipped, if that happened, it meant that the fall can be stopped and saving their lives. Because can you imagine falling down from a telephone sort of pole? Gosh, that would be quite bad. Now let's look at your responsibilities as an employee when you are working at height. Okay. There is a guidance from the HSC on your responsibilities when working at height. And I think one of the things that I will do is send you guys a link so that you can look at the toolbox talk from the HSE, or the Health and Safety Executives, relating to that. And what that says is that employees have general duties to take reasonable care of themselves and others who may be affected by their actions, and to cooperate with their employer to enable their health and safety duties and requirements to be complied with. Because think about this statement, okay? If you were working at height and you didn't take due care, a lot of things could happen. You could fall and then harm someone that's sort of beneath you. The equipment or the ladder could actually drop and harm someone fatally, or seriously injure someone that's sort of under you. So it is very important that you do comply with health and safety, and also cooperate with your employer to enable that your health and safety duties are sort of working in line with theirs. Now we're just going to look at some of the specific requirements when it comes to working at height. And these are your responsibilities. You must report any safety hazards to your employer, okay? Use the equipment and safety devices supplied to you. And not just using them, just make sure that you use them correctly. Use the right tool for the job. Remember what I talked about, I think it was in the first or the second module, where I said don't cut corners, okay? Do exactly what your employer requests of you, in line with their health and safety requirements, and use equipment safely, okay? Also, you need to check all access equipment before use. Check your ladders, check any platforms, anything that you would be using to work at height. You should do a safety check before you use it. Now, the regulations. And before I go into that, I just thought I'd, add, just go back a bit, some points also to this slide. You must make sure that your work is properly planned, okay? And it's supervised and carried out by competent people with the skills, the knowledge and the experience to do the job. You must use the right type of equipment for working at height. So again, it comes down to cutting corners. Oh, I'm just going to do a rush job and sort of get out of the site. No, because that moment of a bad decision can harm yourself or harm someone else. You have to take a sensible approach when considering precautions. So low risk, straightforward task with less will basically require less effort when it comes to planning. And there may be some low risk situation where common sense tells you no particular precautions are necessary, but don't just take it for granted, okay? Just do your checks. The other thing I have to say is that you need to risk assess. I think I've talked about risk assessment so much, but risk assessment is absolutely important when it comes to working at height or doing anything in the construction environment. And some of the things that you can think about include the height of the task. How long are you going to be up there, okay, working at height? What is the frequency of this job? And what is the condition of the surface that's being worked on? So before working at height, you should work through some of these simple steps, and I'm going to list them. Avoid working at height where it is reasonably practicable to do so. So if you don't need to work at height, then, do avoid it, okay? Where work at height cannot be easily avoided, prevent falls by using either an existing place of work that is already safe or the right type of equipment. And also do minimize the distance and consequences of a fall by using the right type of equipment where the risk cannot be eliminated. So do think about these things, just some extra points to put when it comes to your responsibilities working at height, and generally health and safety. Now the regulations. We're going to look at the regulations when it comes to an employer, and then I'm going to look at a couple of do's and don'ts when working at height. Okay, working at height regulations require an employer to avoid, where possible, working at height. Okay, do everything they can to prevent falls. So if you don't need a step ladder to work on something, then why be up there in the first place? Okay, so it is the employer's job as much as possible to do things to prevent falls or any accidents in the workplace. Also, within the regulations, it does take into account the working conditions. So, are you working at height within a confined space? What is the conditions? Is it if you're working outside? Is it a rainy day? Is it a day where there's a bit of ice? All those sorts of things. It does take into consideration the working conditions. What is the height at which you need to work? If you were working at height and you do fall, what is the distance that you will fall, or that you would have fallen, if there was an accident, and what would happen to you if you did fall? Also, it does take into account when it comes to the regulation to provide suitable and sufficient platforms, guardrails, and support. Okay, so I will send a link to you guys for the HSE toolbox talk on working at height. But just to get you thinking, um, think about this. What is the first thing to do before working at height? Okay, and the next question will come, and I'm going to go through it. List some do's and don'ts when it comes to working at height. So let's get into a bit of the do's. The do's, as much as possible, work from the ground. Okay, so as much work as possible, do as much work as possible from the ground. Do ensure workers can get safely to and from where they work at height. So there's nothing obstructing their views, there are no obstructions, anything like that, okay? So just to recap, do as much work as possible from the ground, and do ensure workers can get safely to and from where they work at height. Do ensure equipment is suitable, stable, and strong enough for the job. And also do make sure that the equipment is maintained and regularly checked, because you don't want to be getting up tired ladders or a ladder with a fault or anything like that. Do take precautions when working on or near fragile surfaces. Again, if it was a fragile roof, roofing, which, could be fragile, do take care because you don't want to fall through the roof, okay? Do provide protection from falling objects. So, do have, if you are supposed to be wearing sort of a tool belt while working at height, do make sure that it's properly fastened and secured to you and objects don't fall onto people, okay? Do consider emergency evacuation and rescue procedures. So, pardon me, wherever you are working, they will have emergency evacuation and rescue procedures, and do make sure that you follow that. Now let's get to the don'ts. Do not overload ladders. You need to consider the equipment or materials workers are carrying before working at height. So basically, don't, just take a whole bunch of heavy stuff and go on a ladder, because it could give way and then cause a fall. Do not overreach on ladders or step ladders. So if what you're working on is a bit of a distance away, please do not overreach or stretch out to work on it, because again, you could fall. Do not rest a ladder against weak upper surfaces. So examples of that would be plastic gutters or glazing. Do not use ladders or step ladders for strenuous or heavy tasks. So only use them for light work or short duration. And I'll say like a maximum of 30 minutes at a time. Do not let anyone who is not competent. So what that means is anyone who doesn't have the skills, the knowledge and experience to do the job. So if the person doesn't have the knowledge and the skills to work at height, please don't let them get up there. Okay. Now let's talk about access equipment. Over the next couple of slides, we will be talking or looking at access equipment to work at height. The first one is ladders. Ladders should basically lean against solid walls or structures, placed on even surfaces or solid surfaces. You should tie the top or some other point of the ladder. Okay, so make sure it's tied securely to the surface that it's leaning on, and only one person at a time should be on a ladder. I think that's common sense, but you shouldn't be sort of two people on a ladder, and use a suitable ladder for the job. Okay, so we're just going to look at a type of ladder. This one on here on the screen here, just my mouse hover over it, is an extension ladder. So two parts must not move against each other with an extension ladder. You need to have both sections secured so that the top section does not slide down when in use. That can cause serious harm. Okay, and have a minimum overlap of 1 meter. Now, some things for you to think about, okay, and I think this you'll need to go through this in your workbook. Think about it. What sort of surface must the ladder be leant against? Think about the surface it should be stood on. How do you secure a ladder, and how many people should be on a ladder and at the same time. We're also going to look at some more access equipment. Again, ladders. This is a step ladder. I'm sure you guys know this. You should make sure that a step ladder is placed on even and a solid surface. Okay, make sure it's tall enough for the jobs. Again, this sort of stops you from overreaching. Okay, and do not use the top 2 steps. Again, it's just to keep you safe, and the top 2 steps are not very secure or safe for you to use. This is a roof ladder. Roof ladders sort of hook over the ridge of the roof. They provide a set of steps to climb up and down the roof. Use staggings on fragile roofs, and use harnesses and lanyards. Okay. Some more into access equipment. This is a mobile scaffolding. Well, this is mobile scaffolding. It's prefabricated. It's a prefabricated access suppliers and manufacturers association certification is required to use mobile scaffolding. So I think it's called a PASMAC. Okay, you should make sure that it's placed on an even and a solid surface. The reason for that is if the surface is uneven, it could actually cause a fall, okay, and damage to the equipment as well. Only people who are trained can erect scaffolding of any form, of any sort, okay, and it needs a minimum of 2 people to erect a tower. So obviously you don't go on a mission of sort of erecting scaffolding on your own if you're not trained, and you shouldn't be on your own doing it in the first place. There has to be edge protection on the platform, and it must have lockable wheels. Obviously, you don't want to be doing a task and then you find yourself sort of rolling away into some sort of danger. The other thing I do have to say is, obviously, if you're to get on a mobile scaffolding, please, please, please do your risk assessment and do your safety checks before you get on there. The next one coming is obviously fixed scaffolding. Again, it must be erected and dismantled by specialists. Okay, you can't, be doing it if you don't have the training or the specialty to do so. The minimum platform width must be 5.4 meters, okay, and it must be professionally designed if it's over 38 meters high, Okay, and again, just like with mobile scaffolding, please do your safety checks and your risk assessments before you get on there, because if a scaffolding board is loose or not correctly fitted, it could cause a fall from height, which can be fatal or cause serious injury. Some more on access equipment. I've got here, I think it's a mobile elevated work platform. And again, to use this equipment, you need to make sure that it's placed on even solid surface. Okay. It must be fitted with outriggers. So again, the reason for that is, so that the individual who's working from that platform does not fall. And the platform guardrails and edge protection are required. Okay, and again, this is to stop a fall and to give stability, and it must be operated by a minimum of 2 people. Again, for health and safety reasons. So think about this. Can you think about the different types of mobile elevated work platforms? I mean, I can name a couple. We've got the vertical scissor lift, self-propelled boom, a vehicle mounted boom, or a trailer mounted boom. Okay, and those are sort of elevated work platforms that you could use. Now, if you've got any questions or concerns, by all means, please send me an email and I can offer more support. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is working on fragile roofs, what to do and, basically what not to do. So the HSE have said that, while working on fragile roofs or old roofs, just, do ideally when you're working, just try and work under the roof as opposed to, sort of on top of it if it is a fragile roof. Do make sure that you're using a mobile elevated work platform. Do make sure also that if you're working on a roof, there is a perimeter edge protection installed. Use staggings to spread loads. Fit the staggings or platforms with guardrails, and also do have a safety nets underneath the roof just in case there is a fall. You also have to wear a harness if you're working on a roof. And a fragile. Here are examples of fragile roofs: an old roof light, old linear panels on built-up sheeted roofs, non-reinforced fiber cement sheets, uh, corroded metals, glass, rotten chipboard, slates and tiles. Those um, those are classed by the HSE as sort of fragile roofs. Okay, and just on here, these are some of the things I was talking about making sure that you use a mobile working platform, having edge protection again because that stops a fall. You sort of work. It kind of keeps you a bit confined if you have sort of perimeter edge protection. Also fitting the staggings. Please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it properly. I've always called them staggings. And also just installing safety nets underneath just in case there is a fall. And please, please, please wear a harness or lanyard. Okay. Now, if you've got any questions, as always, please shoot me an email and I'm more than happy to support you. Thank you so much for watching.